The Kaddish is said at a time when one is mourning, or one is remembering a face, a relationship, a person that you've been in contact with. And so there's a sadness that arises, a mourning, a grief. And we hold that in one hand, and in the other hand, we hold the extraordinariness of the world. In the spring of 2007, my grandson Ashby and I joined thousands of other teenagers from all over the world on the March of the Living. 1 week we spend on a pilgrimage through Poland, experiencing the history of the Jewish people and learning about the Holocaust. On our first day in Poland, we went to the Jewish cemetery, and we scattered all over looking at the tombstones and reading them. I found myself separated from the group in an area of the cemetery that felt forgotten, and it was very unkempt. The tombstones were lying one on top of the other, and there were leaves that it looked like it had been there for a long time. I began to feel a sense of anger that there was no one here to take care of these. I also felt a deep sadness. So I was holding both those emotions. They stayed with me throughout my whole experience in Poland. As we were leaving, the leaders of the group asked us to think about what we wanted to remember from the experience and how we wanted to honor it. I wanted to stand and say Kaddish for all the people who had no one to say Kaddish for them, no one to remember them. That was my kavanah, that's my intention, and that's what I brought home. So from that moment on, every time I attended a service, I would stand and I would say the mourner's Kaddish, the Kaddish Yatom. About 2 years after we came back from the March of the Living, my father had died. Then my mother, very tragically and suddenly, was killed by a car, hitting her as she crossed the street. About a week after my mother's death, I found myself in a hotel room. The sun was setting, and it was time for me to say the Kaddish. And I was alone. And traditionally, I should be saying the Kaddish in a minyan, 10 people. And I decided that I was going to say the Kaddish even though I didn't have the minyan, because I needed to say it from my heart, for my heart, and from my heart. So I began to say the words, Yitgadal v'Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. How great and holy is this great name. And as I began to chant the ancient Aramaic words the Jews have been saying for centuries, I had a sense that the room was filling up with spirits of people dressed in Eastern European clothing. I was not alone. The wall between the worlds had gotten very thin, and I was being comforted by those spirits that I had been standing to say the Kaddish for all these years. They were there for me. They were my minyan. They were my more than 10 that I needed to stand with and say the Kaddish. And I was not alone. Please join me chanting the words that remind us that in the midst of the pain of loss, there are miracles happening around us to celebrate. And together, we can stand in awe of the wonder of the source of all life, the Holy One of blessing, the one without end, the compassionate one. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'vizman chariv v'imiru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mivarach Liolam Ulalmei Almaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitroman V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei Dekudesha Brechu La'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shloma Rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imiru. Amen. This paradox, that's what Judaism is about. Learning to live in that paradox of the sadness and the glory of life.